Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is Sarah Haas. You're listening to the Boss Body podcast. I am so honored that you have chosen to spend your time with me here today, and I promise I'm going to make it worth your while. So, today we are going to be talking all things Feng Shui. So, I'm excited because this is a new topic that I haven't ever had on the podcast, but it's something we all need to be considering and paying attention to, and I know I am one of those who probably needs some help in this area. And so that's why I'm bringing on Felicia Messina-D'Haiti because she is a soul transformations feng shui coach. So I am so excited to dive in and hear what she has to say. Felicia, thank you so much for coming on today.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Sarah. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
So if someone listening doesn't know what feng shui is, which I think we all kind of have a little bit of that, and there's the whole Marie Kondo trend happening right now with the decluttering and the professional organizing and that kind of thing. But feng shui is a little different. Can you just kind of touch on that and let us know what that is and what that means?
Sure. So, in its essence, feng shui is really about creating an environment that supports you. And, literally it means wind and water. And it comes from very ancient traditions. Actually, in many ancient cultures, if we look back, all of our ancestors had different ways of interacting with their environments that supported their health and their safety and their ability to survive and to thrive in their environments. And so it's just taking like what our ancestors approaches that they took to their environment and kind of applying it to our environments today so that we can also thrive in whatever space we're in.
So what does that mean, thrive in your space? How do we set that up? So I get the wind and water because, in ancient times we were had to do a whole lot more outside and, people lived in caves or, handmade built, whatever structures and the mother nature had a really big impact
Mhm.
on our daily living conditions. We had to be close to water because we didn't have any way to get it and the wind could be coming, so we had to be protected or whatever. But now we get our own water pumped into our houses and we're safe and inside a structure and we have air conditioning and heat.
Mhm.
So in modern day, what does that mean?
In modern day, it focuses more on, well, it still takes into account the basic safety, approaches. So making sure you have doors that lock and your roof isn't leaking and making sure like things are in good repair. But also on a more like energetic level, it focuses on creating an environment that gives you like subconscious signals that you are supported. So if your home is, let's say, full of clutter and you're like constantly like tripping over things or you can't find things, you're kind of sending signals to your brain that like, oh, I'm never going to be organized, or I can't find anything, or I don't have what I need. I mean, there's always messages that the objects and the colors and the arrangement of your home is sending you that lets you know internally if you are safe and protected and if you can like express yourself. And are you like, if someone were to walk into your home, does it represent like who you are? Or is it kind of foreign to you where you don't have a relationship with your environment?
Yeah, and I mean, I am by no means a neat freak or a perfectionist when it comes to my house, but I know that when there is too much clutter, it is like my brain cannot focus. And I work from home. And so a lot of times I'm sitting in the kitchen at my kitchen table or in the living room on the couch. And if the space around me is chaotic, then I really feel that. I my anxiety's higher and it's harder for me to focus. And so I know that and I have a lot of clients who deal with this in even a more applicable way, like cooking themselves nice meals when their
Mhm.
kitchen is just it's too many things out on the counter or they're using it as a catch-all and it's got, the dog food and your purse and too many appliances and just it's overwhelming to go in there and even think about cooking a meal because you're thinking of all the work you got to do on the front end just to get it ready.
Yeah, definitely. And if we look at our home in terms of like what is the purpose of each room? Like the kitchen is the purpose, is to nurture and to provide to a layer of health to our living our lives. And it's also a source of community because if you go back to ancient times again and think about, the kitchen was where like people gathered to cook meals, to talk, to, just be with each other. And is your kitchen serving that purpose? Or is it, like you said, a catch all for things or, just stuff everywhere? Our rooms want to live, if we think about our rooms being like living and having energy, we want our rooms to live their purpose. um, so creating a kitchen that exudes, nourishment and clean spaces and taking care of our bodies and, a space of self-care, then we can kind of shift what's going on in that space.
I love that perspective because, you know, you're so right about the kitchen being the community place because I know if you have people over, no matter how much living space you have in the rest of the house, the kitchen
Mhm.
is where everybody ends up. You're sitting at the kitchen table talking, laughing, and you want it not to just support when other people are there. And I know I'm so guilty of this. I'll let it pile up and pile up. And then if someone's coming over, I'm going to go madly dashing about trying to clean it
Mhm.
up. But I really love how you said each room is symbolic for a different thing, and you're going to pick up on whatever energy is in that room, and that's how you're going to feel. And your home needs to be a sanctuary. It needs to be a place where you feel good, where you feel relaxed and at peace. And so I just think it's so important to realize what you're saying about what's the purpose of each room and how is the way that you have it now serving you versus what could you do to energetically improve your space?
Mhm, definitely. And if we take a look, especially at the bedroom, if you think about the bedroom representing like your innermost self or your most private self, um, and oftentimes, like you said, when companies coming over, we like clean up the areas, the more public areas where they're going to be. And oftentimes we push all the stuff into the bedrooms or into the spaces where, they're not going to see. But we need to think about like what is the purpose of your bedroom? And if it is to be a sanctuary, to be a place where you rejuvenate yourself and rest. What's really going on in there? Like, what's the first thing you see when you wake up in the morning and the last thing you see before you close your eyes and turn off the lights at night? And is it something that inspires you and brings you joy for the day? Simple things like that could bring a lot of shifts to your home.
I agree with that. And I have to say, I love my bedroom. I have a dream catcher right where
Mm,
I can see it immediately when I wake up, and it's absolutely gorgeous. My sister got it to me as a gift, and feathers are very symbolic for me, and so it has all these beautiful peacock feathers and shells that were found on the beach. And, that's pretty much the last thing I see when I go to sleep and the first thing I see when I wake up. And also, what's really important to me is having a really comfy bed and comfy mattress and comfy bedding. And I sleep great. I love going to bed. I'm tired too. So that's part of
Yeah.
it. But I do feel like my bedroom and it's decorated with sort of, some mermaids placed
Mm,
around and some really like empowering power thought cards that I can see and, that will just remind me of important things that I want to be focused on
mm,
and all kinds of little crystals and just things that serve me mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
mhm. Yeah, definitely. That sounds wonderful.
So are there other rooms that we should be thinking about in terms of all of this, or are the bedroom and the kitchen sort of your primary spaces?
I would say if to recommend a place to start would be first the bedroom and like main bathroom and the kitchen. I mean, really every room in your house can, there are feng shui principles that can be applied, and definitely clearing the clutter out of all spaces is great. But if you don't know anything about feng shui and you just want to get started with kind of arranging your spaces to be more supportive, definitely bedroom, bathroom, and kitchen, and the front door as well, the entranceway to your home, because that's where you invite new energy into your space.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. And I've always heard that your mattress is important too, because it sort of has held, memories, energies,
Yeah.
whatever. And so it's important to letting really, like, all the pieces in your house
Mhm.
have some kind of energy, have some kind of history. When you look around your room and you see paintings that your kids did when they were little, or a piece of art from someone you love, or from a place you visited, everything sort of has something attached to it, and you're going to be absorbing the energy of all those things.
Yes, definitely. Everything in our spaces, from like all of the objects, the furniture, even the colors that we choose, the scent in the air, um, everything like goes together to kind of create that environment where and build the energy of what, you know, well, we've already built it, but it builds that energy of what we desire. So, it's even, when thinking about like paint or the color of your comforter or the curtains or anything, it all like fits together to create that, like, I call it a 3D vision board. So it's like, what you desire in your life, you're like, whether you're conscious of it or not, you're putting it together in your space to create that energy.
Ooh, I love that. Whatever you desire in your life.
Mm,
Yeah, it's that 3D vision board. So it's so true because I know I love to travel. So whenever I travel, I always buy something,
mm,
some kind of tile to put up in my kitchen or, some kind of artwork or to put on a shelf or put on the wall because I love remembering those things. And then family is important to me. So I have family photographs around. And it's so true that, what you want, whatever you see and think about is what you're going to bring more of into your life.
mm, definitely. Yep.
So I want to go back to what you said before about the clutter and how that sort of makes you feel about yourself. Because you
Mm,
said, it kind of gives you a negative message like, oh, I'm failing. I'm never going to get organized. Tell me a little bit about that because that really resonated with me.
okay. Clutter clogs our energy. It blocks, it creates blocks in our lives. And a lot of times, the physical clutter that we see in our homes is really a manifestation of, mental or emotional clutter. So are there things that we are dealing with that either we don't want to deal with, that we should be dealing with, or things that we're trying to work through, and it will manifest as like physical clutter in the space. Um, so when you're thinking about clearing clutter, it's really important to set an intention first. And in setting your intention, it's kind of like, so if you have a sink full of water and you just take, a cup and dish out some of the water, the rest of the water in the sink will fill in this the for the water that you took out. So a lot of times when we're clutter clearing, you might be like getting rid of a lot of stuff, but if you're not intentional about what energy or what you want to bring into the space, it'll just fill up with more clutter. So you really have to look at, what is the root cause of, this particular, area of clutter in the home, or the particular type of clutter that you're gathering, and really get down to the root of it and create an intention for what you want to replace it with. So if you want more peace or more joy or more abundance in your life, be very intentional. Like, I'm releasing this clutter in order to bring more abundance into my life. And then you can kind of pinpoint like, oh, these are the things that make me feel abundant. These are the things that'll be in this space, and not the whatever the clutter was.
Oh, yeah, I like that. I mean, it is crazy how everything that's going on superficially on the
Mhm,
surface, whether that's your space, whether that's your physical body, is a
mhm,
manifestation of what's going on inside your brain. Because I mean, just as an example for me, when my desk just gets so out of hand, which it does because I hate filing, so there's papers everywhere, and it makes it so hard for me to focus on one task because I keep seeing all these other things and it draws my attention away. And sometimes I just put it all in a big stack and move it away and just put one thing in front of me, and then I'm like, "Oh, okay." But it's definitely an outward whatever is going on in my brain.
mhm,
I'm stressed when I have a lot of work, when I have a lot of projects going on and I'm juggling a lot of things, my desk is definitely going to look like that.
mhm,
And I know, I've worked with a lot of clients that struggle with things like ADHD, and they struggle to keep their home organized. And it's just like an ongoing, and that is a representation of what's going on inside of you. And when you go inside and think about, okay, that's sort of calling your attention to something that needs addressed. Like for me, it's handling stress. I'm not great at handling stress. So I know when my desk is covered up, that's a signal to me. Okay, what do you need to do to de-stress and to bring yourself down and get centered and stop, everything swirling in my brain, just like papers being out all over my desk. And my clients with ADHD, that is calling your attention to, this is a
mhm,
psychological issue. This is something that needs, to be addressed professionally, and see what you need to do to get help with that. And of course, the extreme is hoarders.
mhm,
That is a mental illness. And
mhm,
it's because they have these things that they're dealing with inside, and it's being expressed
through the
externally. And I
mhm,
always say that with my clients who are carrying extra weight,
mhm,
and they want to release that weight, but what they really need to do is release whatever emotional, spiritual, mental weight they're
mhm,
carrying around, and then the physical weight follows. So I love that you're pointing out that your house, your home, is just another area of your world around you that is
mhm.
pointing you in a specific direction.
Yes, it definitely is. Um, and it's, I think Feng Shui has there's a perception that it's very difficult and there's lots of rules to follow. And there are certain, there are like certain ways to arrange your space to help with the flow. And there are certain like guidelines and can be rules, but really in its essence, it's like you want to feel good in your space and you want the space to represent like who you want to be, like who you are, who you want to be, and how you want to feel on a daily basis in your space.
And I think it's important for us to realize that you don't have to be an interior designer and you don't have to spend a lot of money. Because I know my brain goes straight to, well, I need to rip up this carpet and I need to, redo this room and tear down this wall. And I watch those HGTV shows and it makes me want to redo my whole house immediately. And that isn't what you're saying.
No, definitely not. If you don't have to change the paint color on all the walls. Let's say if you wanted to bring like more like self-love into an area, just add some splashes of pink. Could be in, a tablecloth or a scarf or just something to shift the energy. Or by shifting pictures, sometimes things are just in the wrong place in our home. And by moving it to a place that's, more supportive, we shift the energy there. So it's not about going out and buying a whole bunch of stuff, or that would be against like the clutter clearing part, or repainting and redesigning your whole house. It's really looking at what do you already have that you can shift, move, rearrange to make the space more supportive for you.
And do you feel like more than going out and buying new stuff, it's more about letting go of some of the stuff that's
Mm,
around that maybe isn't serving you?
yes, I do. I feel like it's letting releasing, I call it releasing the things that are not supportive and then kind of highlighting what's left to and what you've chosen, because it's like, you're inviting these objects into your life to support you and to be part of your like daily environment. So like what do you want to invite into your space? You wouldn't invite people in who aren't supportive. So why are you having like stuff around that's not supportive?
So, where in the world do we start with all this? I look every time I start to declutter one area, all the other areas come to mind. Like if I'm doing one closet, I'm thinking, "Oh my god, I have 5 closets that really need it." Or if I'm doing one drawer, I'm like, "Oh my god, where do I start? Like I need to do my attic space. I need to do my garage." And it gets, I always tend to jump too far ahead into everything. And so just give us an idea of how to get started because I think what you're saying is so important and really could make such a difference in our daily stress just on
Mhm,
right off the bat, the amount of stress you're dealing with when your house is cluttered, you get stressed. But where the heck do we start and how do we decide what
mhm,
to release, what to hang on to?
mhm. I always recommend people start with the bedroom because it is our representation of our innermost self. And just, you know, sometimes I'll just go clockwise around the room and just pick a drawer or, a desktop or a space. And even if you did it for 10 minutes a day, like it is a process. You didn't acquire clutter overnight. So you have to think about it as a process of releasing. And when you go through the objects, just, you might want to have like a couple boxes, like a keep box or a giveaway box or a trash can nearby. And then there's always, I recommend keeping a what I call a maybe box. And I'll talk about that in a second. But just going through and like if it's in your bedroom, like if you're talking about clothes, is this something I wear? Is this something I like to wear? Is this something that I fit? And the things that don't, you're not using, you're not wearing, or maybe they need to be repaired, and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna sew that one day," and like 5 years later, it's still sitting there and you need to like sew it,
Yeah,
like either do it or
I call that basket the place where my clothes go to die. The ones that need a
Mhm.
button or have a rip, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm totally gonna get that stain out someday." And I literally have a basket in my closet, and there is stuff in there I bet has been there at least 5 years. I'm like, "Why do I keep doing this to myself?"
Yeah, because that's another signal, like, oh, tell myself I'm gonna do things and I don't keep my commitments. Like it's one of those like messages that
Mhm.
because I do
Yeah,
that
every
too.
time I
So
see
I
it, I
rid of
feel like a
that.
failure. I'm like, why do I never make time for this? I could probably knock all this out in 30 minutes. Why do I just never do it?" And I do. I feel it makes me feel like, I should do better.
Yeah. So we wanna release all that.
Yeah, and I've also had a couple of, fashion experts on the show,
Mhm.
and, because keeping goal clothes or, quote, "fat clothes" in your
Yeah.
closet, a lot of people do that because, you want it you're gonna get into that dress someday, or,
Yeah.
"Well, what if I gain the weight back? I should keep some of these things."
Mhm.
And pretty much across the board, they're saying no. Just wear things that make you feel beautiful, that you enjoy, that fit you well, and that you feel good and confident in, and get rid of the rest. And I'm guilty too. I have a lot of like, oh, this dress is pretty. I'm going to wear it someday on vacation. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
Yeah, I do that too,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you decide which things to keep, which things to put in the maybe, which things to get rid of?
So the maybe box is for things that you're really not sure about. And so what I suggest with the maybe box is put everything in the box, seal the box up, and then put an expiration date on the box. So let's say, 3 months, 6 months down the road, and then you go back and check the box and you're like, oh, this box, has an expiration date of August 1st. And it's been 6 months and I don't even remember what's in the box. Time to get rid of the box without like going through the stuff again.
That's a tough one. That's a tough
Yeah.
one because I have several maybe boxes. And every
Mhm.
time I start to deal with them, I look at them and I look at each thing again and I still can't decide. And I end up putting the lid on. And then
Mhm.
it's still there 3 years later
Yeah.
when I come upon it and think, oh, I could really use this space.
Mhm.
And that's a big
Yeah.
part of it is having space. We
Mhm.
keep collecting these things and it's taking more mental energy to keep it there than it would be to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think that gives us such a great place to get started and really such a great perspective because we don't realize how much it's affecting us a lot of times. And there's going to be times where like if you have little kids, your space is not gonna be organized. There's gonna be
Mhm.
toys, but, those are joyful. Those are representing your kids having fun, and, there's happy clutter, and there's clutter that brings you down, and one thing that I think you and I both can agree on is it's never gonna be perfect. You're never
Mhm.
gonna have a perfectly clean, organized house, no matter how much the organizers on TV say you will. You'll have a quote system and it's gonna, you're gonna use that forever. You're always gonna have places that need it. And, it's just basically gonna be an ongoing it's like dishes and laundry. You get done
Mhm.
with one and then another one's there. And so just giving yourself some grace for not being perfect, but
Mhm.
just becoming aware of, what are some things I can do to tackle this? And that's why you have your job, right? That's why you're a
Mhm.
coach to help people figure out
Yeah.
how to do this. And so do
Mhm.
you just work with people one on one, like go into their actual physical space, or is this a thing that you can do online as well?
I've done it online. I started doing it online really during the pandemic. Um, but Either or, like, it's because a lot of times people like, I don't see my own stuff.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times having, like, somebody else come into the space and just ask you questions and explore, like, what's going on, it's really supportive in helping others to kinda see. So that's what I do with my clients. It's like it's a lot of, like, discussion and trying to find the root of the clutter, but also going through, like, the space and helping them to release the clutter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing now that we've realized how much you can do remotely because
Mhm,
people need a lot of coaching and help and guidance with this to understand what's going on under the surface. It's not just about
mhm,
physically going in and clearing it out. And then,
mhm,
once you get to the root and you start to kind of work on those things, it can be easier to do it yourself or just show you the area, and
mhm.
kinda help you with the process. So, well, this has been so much fun and, really enlightening. So, Felicia, I just wanna thank you for being on. I loved having this conversation.
Oh, me too. This was great. Thank you for inviting me, Sarah.
Absolutely. So, if my listeners want to learn more about feng shui, about you and your work, where can they go?
They can go so on Facebook, my, Facebook is Soul Transformations, Feng Shui and Coaching, but if they search Soul Transformations, it'll come up, and my website is www.feliciadahaiti.com.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for spending your time with us today. And until next time, I will see you then.